The NCAA tournament started on Thursday, but I don't think the ACC got the memo. That was a rough opening day.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The number of ACC teams in March Madness has already been cut in half. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this episode, I want to give some praise, and I'll see where Kenton thinks we can actually go with this in the future, but praise for Deion Sanders and Fran Brown for wanting to revolutionize what spring football is in college football, showing courage when others are showing cowardice. And yeah, we're going to talk NCAA tournament, KG, because early on Thursday, you had Louisville going down 89-75 to Creighton. So the magical run for the Cards, who really overachieved and punched above their weight this season, unfortunately comes to an end in the opening round. And the same can be said for Clemson. 5-seed Clemson fell to 12 McNeese State. First big upset of this NCAA tournament. Kenton, they only lost the game by 2 points, but it really was not that close. They were down double digits almost entirely through. But I got to get your take on watching that one. So you're watching Will Wade coaching McNeese State, who reportedly has already accepted the job to become the next head coach at NC State. So you're probably happy to see Wade win an NCAA tournament game for the first time in McNeese State history. That happened today. But then that also prolongs your wait for Wade officially coming on board at NC State, because that's supposed to happen as soon as McNeese's tournament run is over.
I want to talk directly to Brad Brownell. Did you fight back? Did you pinch him? Did you do anything? That down 31-13 at halftime. This is a Clemson team that I talked about. Deep guard play, ability to shoot the ball, all that. They were 1 for 16 or 17 from deep in the first half.
Yep.
Lord have mercy. I have never seen a team so woefully underprepared for a tournament game where I get it, right? Will Wade is a Clemson alum, and I get it. You know, they didn't want to show him up too bad. I understand. What? What was that? That was so disappointing from Clemson. And not only that, now we got to wait even longer for a certain announcement to be official, for ink to officially dry, because Clemson wanted to mess around and get beat up. Like, this is, I wouldn't even say this is beat up like the nerds on the school bleachers or something like that. This is a different type of whooping. They got whooped like they stole something. And we're going to sit here and have to hear about all offseason. Oh, we told y'all the ACC was terrible, and you're not even outperforming what you're supposed to do this year. It's just disgusting.
I mean, I will say the final 6 minutes were impressive on Clemson's behalf. They kind of ran out of time, Kenton, because if they had had that final 7 minutes to start their run and not the final 6, maybe we're talking about Coach Brownell and company having a big comeback. I mean, they got a huge, three. The problem is they were, having to put McNeese on the line over and over again. And they, as long as they hit a couple of those free throws, there was no way to come back. But Chauncey Wiggins hit a big 3-pointer to cut the deficit down to 2. And you're thinking, man, Clemson has a shot. And Brownell found a way, Kenton, to make the final 6 minutes of that basketball game last about 90 minutes. I mean, you talk about time management. Again, it was too little too late. They couldn't pull off the comeback. But wow, we started recording this right after the score of that game went final. And we started a lot later than we thought we would.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, credit to Clemson for not giving up, because they could have rolled over and said, oh, man, we're down 18. There's no way we can come back, all that good stuff. Absolutely. Credit to them for that. But even after giving credit to them for fighting, I'm still not giving you moral victory as a 5 seed losing to a 12.
Yeah.
You can't get any moral victory out of that. I can't give you praise and adulation for doing what you were supposed to do in the second. And you want to credit them for the last 6 minutes. Where the hell was that the first 34?
Right.
If
Yeah.
you give an ounce of that, if you give just an ounce of that in the first 34, you don't need to be so superb for the last 6. But instead, those boys could not hit the front of a super Walmart from the parking lot. And not just any spot, the differently able spots where you got to have a special placard to park in them. They still couldn't hit nothing. And I'm supposed to give them credit for all of a sudden, oh, you're only down by so much. Not around here, player. Not around here. It was a disappointing showing from a 5 seed and from one of the teams that had a very good claim to second best in the conference, which, again, this was what they were supposed to do. That's the difference between how I'm reacting to them and how I'm reacting to Louisville. Louisville just came out of the Kenny Payne error. They did. So I wasn't even expecting them to make this tournament. I've been shocked if they didn't make the conference tournament, and yet they find themselves woefully underseeded, playing a Creighton team that's hot as fish grease right now. Do you know what Creighton's last game was before this? Whooping the wheels off Bobby Hurley and company.
That's right.
In the Big East Championship.
Yep.
So team fish grease, and either way, Louisville was stuck between a rock and an extremely hard place, but a red-hot Creighton, Auburn, who everybody says, oh, they're slumping, they're not good, but you know what? That team still only had 2 losses coming into the last week of the regular season. And the 3 of the last 4 they lost, 2 of those were one-possession game, one being an overtime buzzer beater. So Louisville was really placed in a position where making it past the round of 32 would have required a Herculean effort. So them getting eliminated in the round of 64 ain't the worst thing.
Well, when we come back, we'll go inside the numbers on why Clemson couldn't pull off the late rally, which shouldn't have required a rally to begin with, and what went wrong for Louisville. We'll also take a look at the last hopes. And I know Kenton is not happy about the idea for an NC State guy like himself that we are relying on UNC and Duke to carry the conference the rest of the way. You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. My friends, you need to get some Monarch money in your life. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full responsibility, visibility, and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop managing your money and start building your wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on things like food delivery. Now I budget so much smarter and I save more. And if you're managing money with your partner, it's smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Friends, we're also proudly brought to you by Game Time. This is the only ticket app that Kenton and I use. I love how now Game Time, they curate, when I log on to the app, they show me all the events I'm going to be interested in. The algorithm is awesome. Game Time Picks is the most incredible feature. Guys, you want to check this out. Imagine watching your favorite teams live, feeling the energy of the crowd, witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person, and getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbelievable prices. The prices get lower the closer you get to Game Time. Game Time Picks, I mentioned how great it is, makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. Guys, with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On College, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, check out our other shows. Kenton and Grayson Boone do an awesome job on Locked On Wolfpack. Sure, they'll be talking a lot more about Will Wade. I host Locked On Canes. We've moved back onto football, folks, on the Canes side of things. Miami, of course, already hired their basketball coach, not in the NCAA tournament. All right, so Kenton, as far as Louisville went today, it was kind of a tale of two different weaknesses for Louisville's loss and Clemson's loss. Louisville could not defend the perimeter. Clemson couldn't defend in the paint, but Creighton hit 45+% of their three-pointers today, KG. 11 for 24, 45.8% of their threes were hit in this one. Louisville just didn't have answers on the perimeter, whereas Clemson didn't have answers in the paint against McNeese. McNeese scored 44 points in the paint. They also had 35 points off the bench. So Will Wade's team is deep.
But that's what I mean when I say Louisville lost the game to a buzzsaw. Clemson got dominated. Yeah. When I talk about the difference between those two, Louisville, if you watch that game, they're contesting. They're there. Creighton's just hitting their shots. There is no defense for a perfect offense, and especially when you're talking about the long ball. Clemson, on the other hand, how? When we look at Clemson and when we talk about, well, what did Clemson do or what didn't Clemson do and how did they lose this game, how did they win this game, one thing that I want to be abundantly, and when I say abundantly, I mean thoroughly clear in this game. The biggest thing that everybody said the Clemson Tigers had that McNeese State did not, they've got size. They've got size. They're going to dominate them on the boards. They're going to whoop the wheels off them on the boards. I want you to tell me, who do you think won the rebounding battle, Donno?
I can tell you exactly who won the rebounding battle. McNeese State won it 43-36.
That's my point. That's my point. Again, everything that we looked at with these two teams, we said, hey, Louisville, again, punching above your weight. But you know what? Even with being underseeded, you got a shot. You can fight. You can battle. You can do this and that. Louisville was not out hustled to every loose ball that there was. Clemson was.
Yeah.
Louisville was not running into a team that, with all due respect to McNeese State, they did everything they could to keep Clemson into this game. Because when I talk about how poorly Clemson shot the ball, guess what McNeese's total three-point shooting percentage was for the entire game?
4 for 19.
21%.
Yikes.
You lost to a team that shot 21% from three and 50% from the free throw line. Donno, despite all the fouling to end the game, Clemson made more free throws than McNeese.
Jeez. Wow.
11-16. So Clemson, while the comeback effort was valid, while their game ended up looking extremely close, it was de facto a one-possession game. Yes. Yeah. But if you actually watch that game, that was the story of a team that sleptwalked their ass through the first half, and then said, is there a game going on right now? Somewhere in the second half, and thought it would be enough. As opposed to a Louisville team that went balls to the wall, they gave everything they had. They were just outmatched.
Yeah. Well, and going back to Clemson, I don't want people to think I'm making excuses for them when I talk about the great final 6 minutes, because at the end of the day, it's a team that was in the Elite Eight last year. Now they get bounced in the first round against a program that had literally never won an NCAA tournament game before. 0 for 3 heading into today. Now, I know it's not your granddaddy's McNeese, right? Because obviously, Will Wade wouldn't be there if not for, the situation that got him let go at LSU. But you talk about a great coach and a great rebound.
If he wasn't a future-facing coach, if he wasn't a coach who was ahead of his time, he might not be a McNeese State.
Right.
But he is. He's a man of the people. Yeah. He's a man of the people with a heart for his players and wanted to make sure they were fairly compensated for what they were doing in the NCAA. He wouldn't have been there. But you're right, Donno. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just had to let the people know. He's a man of the people. He was a future-focused man of the people. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. All right, so moving on, KG, we got the other two ACC teams. We'll both be in action tomorrow. Now, Duke, of course, they've got a number 1 seed. They're going to go up against 16 Mount St. Mary's. The Duke Blue Devils are 32.5-point favorites. As long as Virginia is not involved, and they're not, you don't typically see 1 seeds fall to 16s. Safe to say Duke will take care of business, and then you've got the added bonus of, I don't even think he should, but it sounds like Cooper Flagg will play. They're not going to need him in this game. Maybe you let him keep 100% pain-free, he says. It sounds like Cooper Flagg is going to be ready to start the tournament. I don't know if they'll cover 32.5 because that's just such a big number, but I think Duke is going to roll tomorrow.
30 is always insane in terms of a tournament game. I'm very good on that line. However,
I'll probably bet Mount St. Mary's against the spread. Duke is going to whoop them, but I'll take Mount St. Mary's plus 32.5. I'll take that one.
I ain't mad at that, especially when you get to a line that big. It's all dependent on how merciful is the coach of the winning team.
Right?
Because if Shire's like, we're up 20, put in the walk-ons, put in the manager, put in the guy, put everybody in. Anybody who ain't played this year that's not redshirting, go ahead, throw them in the game. But when I look at this game, I think that Cooper Flagg should be on a pitch count. I think he should get maybe 10 to 12 minutes max. Because, again, you don't need him against Mount St. Mary's. Go out there, get your ankle loose, get warmed up, get some live action competition. Because it's about 10 days now since the last time that Cooper Flagg has played in a complete game. So, again, go out there, get loose, kind of feel it, get in the groove, and then, sit on down and realize, all right, I'm good. This ankle's good. We're back at it. But, again, I don't think Mount St. Mary's should present any problems for Duke. Even if we look at a worst-case scenario for Duke and you're like, oh, Cooper Flagg's unavailable, whatever the case may be, they're still head and shoulders above this team. They were still able to win an ACC championship without Cooper Flagg stepping onto the court once in terms of as a player. So, I think they'll be fine.
Now, the real question is, at the end of Friday night, is Duke going to be the only ACC team left in the tournament? Because UNC has a significantly more difficult matchup. 11 seed Tar Heels. Some people thought shouldn't have even gotten into the tournament, but they take on 6 seed Ole Miss. Now, UNC Kenton is actually favored by 1.5. Now, this game, to me, is very much a toss-up, but North Carolina is favored by 1.5 against a higher-seeded. The SEC got their entire conference in the NCAA tournament, but UNC favored against a higher seed. Do you think they pull off? You'd normally call 11 versus 6 an upset, but they're actually favored to win the game. Do they pull it off?
I absolutely think they do. And again, when you look at games like this is where we talk about that guard play experience. Padula ain't got nothing for RJ Davis. That's what this game is going to come down to. And that's what I think this is going to be. RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau are going to cook that young man Padula. They're going to put him in the type of blender that would make a NutriBullet jealous. That young man is going to be going left and right and all over the place where he shouldn't be, because he's shown himself to be a defensive liability all year in terms of on-ball defense. And I don't think that this game will be any different. I really don't. If you bring out traffic cones against those UNC guards, especially RJ Davis, who is known, he's one of the best tournament risers we've seen in recent history in terms of college basketball. When the lights are the brightest, RJ is at his best. I highly suspect we have another. I'm not saying we get another 26-point, 6 for 6 from deep game from RJ, but I would not be surprised at all to see another very efficient 20-pointer from him. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Elliot Cadeau with another double-digit assist game, because, again, what I saw from UNC in that first game, they took on a top 25 defense in America. They took on a team that had not allowed over 80 points. The most points they allowed all year was 80 to a top 25 team, which I believe was Oregon. Most points they allowed all year, and scored 95 on their head top. 95. So I think that this UNC team, they heard the whispers. They heard everybody talking crazy and disrespecting them. And listen, I'm already hurting because my guy Will Wade ain't here in Raleigh yet. But UNC is going to keep driving that dagger into my heart, and they're going to keep winning ball games, it feels like, here, because Vegas knows something about that matchup against Ole Miss. They don't like giving away money. The house ain't never like giving away no money. So, it's one.
By the way, I gave away a lot of money today because I took flyers on both ACC teams in the first round. Just take my money, Vegas. You can have it.
Just take it. Okay. The Alex Donno scholarship is alive and well at FanDuel and Prospect. FanDuel and Prospect. Yeah, they're alive and well right now.
By the way, I sent Kenton a link to a story earlier this week. Like, actually, I took the time. I happened to see this when I was on a cruise, and I took the time on a family vacation to send this news story to Kenton about this child who had this underage minor who used his dead grandmother's social security number to sign up for a betting account. And then what did he lose? 6 figures?
Yeah, he lost 6 figures.
I mean,
a couple hundred bands.
That's my protege right there.
The Donno degenerates are getting younger and younger by the day. But don't worry, we're not going to peddle you the Alex Donno School of Degeneracy. All we know is Duke beating Mount St. Mary's. It's a safe bet, but 30-something points, that may not be safe.
Yeah.
That may not be safe, okay? So don't y'all go lose no money and say, Kenton and Donno told you to bet it. We said no such thing. Even with UNC and Ole Miss, while I do think that UNC has a much better backcourt, Ole Miss definitely, from on both of those wings and in the middle, they definitely have that advantage. So I'm not saying bet money on that one. I'm saying what I believe will happen, but I'm a coward. I lose $5 in Vegas and I'm pissed. So I'm definitely not putting money on it. If y'all are going to put money on it, don't do it because Ken said.
That's right. Well, when we come back, will the ACC be part of the revolutionization? Is that a word? Will the ACC be part of revolutionizing spring football? That works, right? Keep it locked right here to Locked On ACC. Oh, my friends, I know you're keeping it locked to 5-Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again. If you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf at work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Guys, we're all going to be staying up this week for the tournament. I just got back from traveling, so I'm tired. I've needed that extra boost from 5-Hour Energy. It keeps me, it's easy to grab, but it keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5-Hour Energy. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. By the way, for your next listen, I know your brackets have already started. Hopefully they're not busted, but it's not too late to get in, my friends.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown. Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
And that was Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. They are the pros. Like the reason why my bracket is still somewhat in one piece is because of the advice that we get from Isaac and from Andy. But Kenton, I know I want to try to bring maybe a different spin on this because I know you and Jackson Holzer talked about it while I was cruising the high seas. But to me, in this new era in college football, where we've seen about a half dozen programs, at least the ones we know about, including Nebraska, Ohio State, USC, canceling their spring games, right? Nebraska is going to do a 7-on-7 skills competition. A skills competition. They're going the way of the Pro Bowl instead of doing their spring game. And so, the reason that they're stating publicly is they don't want to, put their players out in public on TV because then it gives other programs an opportunity to poach their guys in the transfer portal. That's a position of cowardice, okay? I have so much appreciation for Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, for coming out and saying the exact opposite. Not only is Colorado, I know this is not locked on Big 12, but we'll get there. We'll get to the ACC angle. Not only is Deion Sanders saying, hey, we're not going to cancel our spring game, but he's doubling down. They actually want to play other teams. Like, they want to play legitimate opponents in a spring game and do a couple joint practices as well, the way teams will often do in the NFL during the preseason. And I freaking love that. Deion Sanders is not only not afraid to get players poached by other programs, he actually wants to embrace the iron sharpens iron mentality and go up against guys you're not going up against in practice every single day. And I also really appreciate Fran Brown at Syracuse publicly taking Coach Prime up on that idea. He says, yeah, we'll go to Boulder for 3 days and we'll play you. Now, the problem, KG, is apparently the NCAA has a bylaw against this idea that you're not allowed to go up against other teams in spring. So I don't know when this is going to happen, but do you think someday we might actually see one program versus another in spring?
Do I think we will? I know we will. Let me explain something to you. First of all, shout out to Deion Sanders, because when we talk about Coach Prime, one of the biggest things I love about him most, if you see how he speaks about players transferring out of his program, that speaks to his character at an extremely high clip.
Yeah.
He specifically gets under these guys or quote tweets their videos saying, hey, I'm entering the portal. Hey, thank you for my time as above. Entering the always be above, all that stuff. And he specifically said, this is a great young man, great student, great athlete, 3.4, 3.8, whatever the case may be in terms of his grade point average and all that. It just got lost in the numbers game. He'll be great for somewhere else. That's how coaches should be. When you have properly nurtured those relationships, you should not be worried about, oh boy, he scored 2 touchdowns in the spring game. Oh, I'm so worried. I'm so worried. Even if you were talking about the teams that you were going to play, let's say 5 years from now when this becomes a reality, because remember, name, image, and likeness, players getting paid for that at one point in time was against the NCAA bylaws. Now look.
That's a great point.
Now look. So, it's definitely a situation where it's going to come down the pipeline soon. But what I want to point out more than anything else is these games will be – there's too much money to stop this from happening. What do I mean by too much money? Let's throw out the hypothetical Fran Brown, Coach Prime, right? They go at it. You get Syracuse going up to Boulder, Boulder going up to Syracuse for a home and home, 2026, 2027 spring, right? Let's say you get that. Now, here's what happens. Who gets the TV rights, Donno? One team is ACC.
Yeah, because they got different TV partners. Yeah.
Now watch this.
Fox or ESPN.
Now watch this. You remember how NFL Network used to show preseason games, right? They used to show it with first half as like, oh, here's the Browns coverage of the game. Second half, here's the Lions coverage of the game. Do it the exact same way, except just take the two teams and say, all right, ACC Network gets your coverage of this game. You put on a pro Syracuse slant or whatever, and the Big 12 Network, or I don't even know if they have a network, but, you put them on their Fox affiliate or whatever the case may be, and they get their coverage. And boom, you generate revenue that way. Revenue sharing is coming down the pipeline, and teams and universities and conferences at large need every single opportunity they can get to make money. And you think they're going to miss out on the opportunity when no other sports thing is going on in terms of football that is meaningful? Nothing else. And we all know football is king in America, okay? Just look at the Christmas Day slate numbers in terms of basketball versus football. Do you think that people won't tune in to see football in spring? Okay. If you believe that, I have oceanfront property to sell you in Raleigh, North Carolina. Just give me money. Don't ask what ocean it's in front of. Just give me the money, and I'll get you the property later.
So you're telling me Raleigh is not on the ocean? I honestly didn't know if it was or wasn't. My North Carolina geography is not very good.
No, sir. It is in the center of North Carolina. It's
really?
Extremely landlocked. It's extremely
You learn something new every day. I don't know. I thought it was on. Isn't it near coastal Carolina?
No, it's not near Coastal Carolina is in South Carolina. It's on Myrtle Beach. Coastal Carolina,
Really?
Coastal Carolina is very near to me. But see,
this is a really embarrassing geography lesson that I may or may not delete from the final cut of this episode. If this still made it in there, I hope you guys show me some sympathy.
I'm just going to say this. Donno, if Raleigh ever is very near the ocean, we have a lot of problems.
Yeah,
There's a
good
lot
point.
of problems.
That means my house will be underwater already if that happened.
But in all seriousness, ACC's damn near underwater, and guess what'll save them?
Yeah.
Every team having a spring game. Miami, go up there to Michigan. Go see what they're about and bring Michigan on down to you.
Yeah.
Hey, NC State, go play Arizona. Go out there and learn yourself some Wildcats. Come on over to Raleigh. See what it's about over here. Hey, UNC, go on over and play at Notre Dame. Notre Dame play at UNC. Whatever the case may be. Yeah. These brands, Florida State, all those guys, everybody should be matching up with somebody. I'm not even just saying the biggest brand. Match up with somebody else, televise the game, put it on TV, and stop being scared. And one thing that the listeners, Carla Jenkins in particular, shout out to Carla. She always has great ideas for the show. Yeah, she said that, there should be a situation where teams sign a no tampering clause where if you do play a team in spring game, players cannot then enter the portal and go to your school from that old school for you. And I think that's a great idea. I think that's a wonderful idea. I'd absolutely love to see something like that instituted. So it's not like, oh, man, they got to see our guys and they got to see how good the guy behind Carson Beck can spin it, and now they want a quarterback back. I just think that this is a great idea. I don't see any serious downsides to it.
Well, I think to me, the idea of the downside, coaches will tell you the downside is, you're, like you said, players could get poached. I think the real downside would be risking injury. But I mean, to me, like, even having a full contact practice, I know you tend to respect each other more when you're on the same team. But Kenton, you know this better than anybody. There's still risk of getting injured in practice, even if you're not going up against another team. So it's not like you're completely mitigating an injury risk. But I think that would be the big concern would be, hey, because, this is a concern some NFL teams have about joint practices is, hey, we're at a bigger risk of injury going up against another team. But I think the money is probably worth the risk on that, if we're being honest. Well, thank you all so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure you also check out Locked On College Basketball. Isaac and Andy are going to keep you completely and on the Amazon Fire channels as well. They'll keep you completely updated on what's going on in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Stop winning until you get to Raleigh, Will Wade.